What essentially we're talking about is a confidence level, right? So if I go out and win, I feel good about it. And let's say I'm doing a jiu-jitsu tournament, and the first match I go out there and I submit the guy in 30, take him down, submit him in 30 seconds. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like confident, right? So what does that mean? My dopamine is up because I got that victory. My testosterone is up because I got that victory. My confidence is up because I got that victory. Same thing, other direction. If I go out first match and I lose to somebody, my dopamine goes down, that chemical thing goes down, my confidence goes down. And what I have to do is I have to learn how to maintain a level of confidence, because if I win that first match, win the second match, I'm gonna kill this next guy, and I go out and I'm sloppy and I don't care, that's when I get caught. If I lack confidence, I go out there and there's nothing I'm able to do to beat this guy, this is gonna be horrible. Of course, I'm gonna get smashed. So it's a similar thing that we're talking about. I just wonder how much, if you start measuring, because they say, hey, if you win, your testosterone goes up, right? And then if you win more, your testosterone goes up high, your dopamine goes up high, your confidence is going up. But you can get to a point where your confidence is too high, and now you're getting sloppy, and now you don't care. And you mentioned cocaine. You see like videos of people that are all coked up, and hey, I can do this. They think they can do everything.
All possibility.
Overconfident, right?
Yeah.
They think they can kick your ass. I'll fight. That's like too much dopamine, too much ego, too much confidence. The other side of the spectrum is someone that's on some kind of downer drug, and they don't feel like they can do anything. They're lethargic, their confidence is low, and they're just depressed. So there's an interesting tie-in between dopamine, ego, confidence, and probably testosterone that you get from winning and from losing. And once again, as a leader, from a leadership perspective, you can't get wrapped up in that. You can't get wrapped up in that. You have to detach from it. You have to be able to take a step back. And then if you're good, even as a competitor, you'll say, oh yeah, that last match was easy, but I need to prepare for the next match. I can't bring overconfidence. Look, I don't want a lack of confidence. It's a balance, right? It's that flame on the oil burning lamp that you're talking about. That you want that steady flame. You don't want too much because it's gonna burn out of control. You don't want too little, the flame will go out.
Yeah. Earlier, we talked about this notion that some of these older Hungarian psychologists had, which this notion of generators versus projectors. And their idea was that people sort of divide into these different categories, and the world needs both. It's not that one is better than the other, but the world absolutely needs both. And there is this idea now, based on some neuroscience and some other psychology that I've been lathing into, which is that generators know how to tap into the system, and they love this system. I think back to your story about being taken to shop for pants, and it turns out to be a trip to shop for a number of different experiences for you, right? A really telling experience, having an action effect on the world and something coming back to you that still sits with you inside. In fact, there's a dopamine circuit there still related to this, young woman, or then a young woman at that time. Some people are generators, and I think that they are more attuned to this dopamine system. And so as we're having this conversation, I'm guessing that the estimate is that somewhere between 50 and 65% of people are going, yeah, I get it. More workouts is going to give me more energy. I need to do more of that. When I'm back on my heels, I need to think about the things I can complete, et cetera. And then the other 45% or so, or 35% might be saying, I don't really get it. Now, the idea is that the projectors can tap into these same circuits. Everyone has these catecholamine circuits, dopamine, et cetera, but that they tend to be more of observers in the world, and they like being partnered with and symbiotic with these people. Now, this starts to take on kind of like stereotypical masculine, feminine things, but this exists on both sides. It really does. There might be some biases, right, by biological sex. There may not be, right? We could argue that. It's probably an argument that will get us into more trouble than into answers. It doesn't really matter. The point is that some people are perfectly happy to be in the company of people winning because they feel good to see other people winning. They like to be a support staff. That's what makes them feel good. Other people would rather stick hot forks in their eyes than not be the person engaged in the activity. Maybe not every activity, but the activity. So we're talking about the generators and the projectors. I think that in the context of moderating these systems, it's so key. I mean, it's key to have a long arc in a career path, military science or otherwise. I think it's key in every domain of life. And I think for me, one thing that I've learned both the hard way, and I've also benefited from the positive experience of, I think in relationships, this could be romantic relationships, but also friendships and in family, because there are generators and projectors almost always in those kind of symbiotic relationship, romantic couple or a family that, some kids are more generators, some are more projectors just by something, who knows? Maybe it's hardwired, maybe not. As the leader of your family, I'm going to assume one of the two leaders, but as a leader in your family, I'm not going to make any assumptions here, as the leader of your family, and also as a father in particular, how do you apply these same sorts of ideas when, your kid is kind of down because it's hard to be a 14-year-old, or because it was a bad day, or when they're up, right? I think the up states are as interesting as the down states. Like, yes, got the degree, got the win. How much do you let them celebrate before you're like, hey, listen, you just got yourself another couple milliliters of oil in your candle. What are you gonna do with that? You gonna burn it, or are you gonna save it for the next thing so you can climb the staircase?
Well, clearly it's a very similar thing to what I just talked about. If your kid is doing well and wins the wrestling tournament and is like, yeah, I won the wrestling tournament. And what do they want to do? They want to eat a triple cheese pizza, right? I mean, they want to go crazy. And you as a leader and as a parent and as a friend need to say, hey man, I mean, you did good. That was awesome. You had a great day. Mm-hmm. But let's start thinking a little bit about next week too. How about we just have a few slices of pizza, right? As a reward. So this is the same in any situation that you could be in interacting with other human beings. You want to be the person that kind of modulates the confidence and the ego, or the way you put it, the dopamine and the celebratory activities. So no matter who you are, and this goes with yourself as well. You do something, you have a success, and you say, oh, that's great. But all glory is fleeting, and I need to get back to work. And look, and do people go too far with that sometimes? Yes, absolutely. Sometimes people, they don't stop and celebrate at all. And those are the kind of people I think that get burned out eventually, because they never say, hey, that was awesome. We had a big win. Cool. High five. They don't even say that. So I think, as a leader, as a friend, as a parent, as a spouse, you want to be able to modulate that, help modulate that. Don't shut it down. Your kid walks off the wrestling mat for a high five and you say, you could have won by more. No, I'm not talking about that. Or your kid walks off the mat after losing, you say, you got what you deserve. No, you've got to be the counterweight to the emotions that other people have. And I think that when you're doing a good job as a leader, as a friend, as a spouse, or whatever, you're doing a good job as a counterweight. I think that's a good way to look at it. You want to provide some balance for people to make sure that they don't get out of control. And you notice when people have a downfall, it's normally because they've surrounded themselves with people that there's no counter to. There's no counterbalance. If you were my best friend and I went out drinking last night and had a great time and partied all night and met a girl and you're like, heck yeah, let's do it again tonight. Eventually, where are we going to be? We're going to be in the gutter somewhere. But if you say, hey, dude, that was awesome, but hey, remember, we got school on Monday, right? And you kind of pull me back. We got to find balance in life and ourselves. And then we got, as much as we can, provide balance for other people, because people are emotional and they get caught up in what they're doing. And you want to keep people balanced.
I think one of the reasons people are really drawn to your message, and I put myself in that category. I remember 2014 was a very different picture for me. It doesn't really matter what the contour was, but things were working, but they weren't working the way I wanted them to. And I remember arriving at your content first through the Tim Ferriss podcast, then eventually the Jocko Willink podcast, Joe Rogan podcast. Those were the big two ones that kind of like introduced me to you and your content. And it was really a case of, at the time, I didn't have a lot of friends that were doing similar things to me or that matched my daily routines in a way that, I could kind of synergize with in this way. I think one reason why you are so helpful to people is that not everybody has these friends. You can have the friend that's like, let's go out and tie one on again. A lot of people don't even have that friend. Or they have a friend, but they're not really close with that person. There's some ideas nowadays about, 80% of males don't have a close friend that they could call. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing girls and women feel the same too. That a lot of stuff is superficial. And there's a lot of communication, but not a lot of connection, right? And so I think that you and a few other people in the, let's call it social media public facing space, serve as archetypes of like the friend that's going to tell you when you're up, great, well, let's clamp it after a while, or that when you're down, let's get going, and here's how you get going. And so I do want to highlight that because I think it's really important, and it's but one reason why people are drawn to your message.
Let me know if you have generator confidence or projector confidence. Join the mindset evolution by subscribing, hitting the bell, and liking the video, so you don't miss the weekly uploads. Check out the other videos that will help you to evolve your mindset. Thanks for watching.